Hi, you miss me? Oh, I knew you would. I knew you would. I know it's been a while since I read my stories to you, but I've got a new one that is just a pip. It's a wonderful story, and I'd like to read it to you. It's called The Yellow Star. It's the legend of King Christian X of Denmark, and it's by Carmen Agra Deedy, and it's illustrated by Henry Sorensen. Lovely book, truly lovely. The Yellow Star, the legend of King Christian X. All right. There's this, here's this, and this. And now we'll read The Yellow Star, the legend of King Christian X. Early in the year 1940, in the country of Denmark, there were only Danes. Got it? All right. Danes, huh? Well, my goodness. Let's see. Tall Danes, stout Danes, old Danes, silly Danes, and cranky Danes. And even some great Danes. Now, what are great Danes? The dogs. There you'll see one. But no matter how different from each other they seemed, the Danes held one thing in common. All were loyal subjects of their beloved King Christian. There's tall Danes, short Danes, fat Danes, crazy Danes, great Danes. Got it? All right. Now this one is smoking a pipe. This is a chef right here, evidently. Here's a fellow with a yarmulke on, a kippah. Here's a balancing act by this man here. And this guy is undoubtedly a fisherman. So, and there's a policeman. And there's a woman chasing a dog who's got something, probably a sausage. Anyway, every morning, their king rode alone and unarmed along the streets of Denmark's capital, Copenhagen. Who's that? A curious visitor once asked. Why, that's our King Christian, his Danish host responded. Without a bodyguard? Asked the astonished guest. My friend, came the proud reply, a king so loved needs no bodyguard. We Danes would all stand together in defense of our king. Little did the Danes know how much they would need their wise king in the dark days to come. There you see them discussing various things about life and the world. And there's the king up there. You see him riding on his horse? All right. So then we go to, like a fierce storm, war was spreading across Europe. And even good King Christian was powerless to stop it. Soon, Nazi soldiers gathered like dark clouds at the Danish border. Their arrival in Copenhagen brought food shortages, curfews. Curfew is where they say everybody has to be inside their home by 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock at night. And a new flag, which was hung at the palace. The flag stood for war and fear and hatred. The Danes watched and waited to see what their king would do. King Christian sent a Danish soldier to remove the flag. That's the dreaded flag that the Germans put up there, the Nazi swastika. Here's the king, and he's sending a soldier to remove that flag, the Nazi swastika. Upon discovering that the swastika was missing, a Nazi officer demanded to see the king, and he asked, "Who took down the flag?" "I sent a soldier to remove it," replied the king. "Oh, you did you? Well, tomorrow another will fly in its place," the officer boasted. "Then tomorrow I will send another soldier to remove it," countered the king. "And I will have that man shot," threatened the Nazi. Leaning forward, King Christian said sternly and evenly, "Then be prepared to shoot the king, for I will be that soldier." The Nazi flag did not fly from the palace again. There's the Nazi officer telling the king, and the king telling him that if anybody takes off the swastika from the palace, it'll be the king himself. The missing flag became a powerful symbol of resistance, and King Christian's subjects found reasons to pass the palace gates to see where it once hung. Yet it was only a small victory. The king and his people's greatest test was still to come. There are people coming by the palace to see if the flag was up or not, and it was not. The terrible news arrived quietly, with leaflets that fluttered down on the city of Copenhagen. The leaflet said, "Effective immediately. All Jews must sew onto their clothing a yellow star, which must be visible at all times." They're the people picking up the notices about the yellow star. The people of Denmark were frightened. They had heard terrible stories. In some places, once Jews wore the yellow star, they were taken away and not heard from again. Isn't that terrible? All as before, The people look to their king. Here you see different pictures. Here you see people digging their graves when they wore that yellow star. Here you see citizens of Denmark wearing the yellow star and Nazi soldiers who are prepared to take them on the trains to the crematoriums in Poland. Warszawa, which is the Polish way of saying Warsaw, Poland. This time their king was as frightened as his people. Without the yellow star to point them out, the Jews looked like any other Danes. Gentiles and Jews were all Danish subjects who worshiped God in different ways. If King Christian called on the tiny Danish army to fight, Danes would die. If he did nothing, Danes would die. There you see the various actions in World War II. Plane bombing, a ship, the king thinking, wondering what to do. Perhaps it was the riddle of the yellow star that drew King Christian to his balcony that night. The sky was filled with the light of many stars. If you wish to hide a star, wondered the king to himself, where would you place it? His eyes searched the heavens. Of course, he thought. The answer was so simple. You would hide it among its sisters. The king summoned his tailor. There's the king looking at the stars and thinking and finding his answer. So he summons the tailor, and the tailor is told. The tailor arrived and listened to the king's surprising request. We only have an hour before I ride at dawn. The king said urgently, can you complete this task in time? Yes, Your Highness, I'll begin immediately, the tailor bowed respectfully. And you do understand what this means, the king insisted. I do, Your Highness, as will all your subjects, he answered with pride. I trust they will, whispered the king, placing as much faith in his Danish subjects as they had in him. There's the king, and there's the tailor. And he's looking at the king's outfits. The following morning, the King of Denmark, with courage and defiance, rode alone through Copenhagen. He was dressed in his finest clothing. As they watched him pass, the subjects of King Christian understood what they should do. There he is, and he's got a yellow star on his jacket. And the citizens are looking at him on his horse, and they understood what they must do. And once again, in the country of Denmark, there were only Danes. And everybody got the idea of what they had to do, which was to sew a yellow six-pointed star on their outer jacket. Everybody had a yellow star. The story of the yellow star is a legend. It may be disappointing to the reader, as it first was to this author, to learn there is no proof that the story ever occurred. I learned of it as a scrap of a tale told to me by a stranger. Its imagery was so compelling, and its humanity so palpable, that means you could grab it, that I wanted to know more. Over the years, despite collecting curious oral versions of the story, researching documents and works of fiction, most notably Lois Lowry's moving novel, Number the Stars, I found only unauthenticated references to King Christian's legendary defiance. I learned of many facts that in their own right were as powerful as the legend itself. I learned that the beloved King of Denmark did indeed ride unescorted and unprotected through the streets of Copenhagen. Stories about the king's support of Danish Jews began to circulate throughout Europe as early as 1943, including his threat to wear the yellow star in solidarity with the Jews. No Jew within Denmark was ever forced to wear the yellow star. Among the Nazi-occupied countries, only Denmark rescued the overwhelming majority of its Jews. Over 7,000 Danish Jews were smuggled to Sweden in fishing boats, 12 to 14 at a time, by a group of Danes called the Helsinger Sewing Club. Silly name. The Helsinger Sewing Club. Of the almost 500 Jews deported to Theresienstadt, where a concentration camp existed, all but 51 survived, due in large part to the Danish government's intercession on their behalf. Yet the legend only grows stronger. Why? Perhaps because we need it. The allegory of the yellow star used by the Nazis to divide and shame became in this legend a symbol of unity and hope. It is a story that should be told. What if it had happened? What if every Dane, from shoemaker to priest, had worn the yellow Star of David? And what if we could follow their example today against violations of human rights? What if the good and strong people of the world stand shoulder to shoulder, crowding the streets and filling the quarters, saying, "You cannot do this injustice to our sisters and brothers, or you must do it to us as well"? What if? It's like we were to say, Black Lives Matter. It's the same thing. All lives matter. And that's why this book is so right in pointing that out, so that you must understand in our present day that Black Lives Matter. And King Christian would probably have put on some form of blackness that he would be proud of. Thank you.